Hi, I'm Scott White, a co-founder at Squillo. On Fridays, we take a moment to talk about things that drive engineers crazy. This week, we're talking about environment drift. Specifically, if you have a mobile app with a data-driven backend, then this is for you. Every time you update your mobile app, it has to sit in line at the App Store for approval. Every time you update your backend, you have to cross your fingers that your user's app doesn't crash, and that your backend can even handle requests from people that have and haven't updated. And all the teams that pushed all those features, hopefully they still work, and you have to explain that some downtime may be unavoidable. And there's deprecation code everywhere and no time to fix it, and the list goes on. We call this environment drift. Whenever you have an application that progresses at a different rate than its status service, environment drift is the problem that just won't go away. To deal with this, there are 4 different strategies when it comes to updating your app and backend. First, the big banner. You can inform your users that a new update is available and that they should update for an improved experience. As a user, not only is this annoying, but if you are in retail, this directly affects your revenue. This eventually becomes the de facto though. Your users have to upgrade so you can service them, but you want to avoid times that are inconvenient for them. Second, the shotgun. You can use a series of future feature release tags that get triggered as your front or back end changes. This lets users avoid inconvenient upgrades, but the code typically looks like it becomes littered with if-else statements. This has the added tragedy of trying to decipher the user's version in comparison to the feature flag, avoiding feature collision, not to mention that E2E testing is nigh on impossible, and at the bottom of this black hole, no one can even hear the developer scream. Third, the never-ending sunset. You can use some sophisticated routing that serves the correct data for the correct version, combined with a bunch of application performance monitoring tools to slowly sunset your old versions. This typically takes a lot of coordination, redundancy, and custom programming, but your users aren't distracted as they use your app. Eventually, they still do need to upgrade, but it can happen in the background. And finally, the hopeless. You can kind of just do nothing and watch users scratch their heads when the app doesn't work. Hopefully they'll come back, I guess. It always surprises me how often developers choose this route, but since the alternatives are so tricky, I totally get it. This is a huge problem that just gets overlooked when there's so much else going on. Between all the feature demands, user experience, and general architecture complexity, a good mobile deployment strategy is the last thing to get implemented. This is often because you can't afford to spend time on it until you know the app or feature is successful. One thing I wanted to showcase today is just how easy Squillo makes this. I set up a quick demo that intelligently routes upstream and downstream requests while also monitoring how many of our users' devices are still using which version downstream. This works hand in hand with our mobile deployment strategy, and you'll see how we can progressively add this into your backend over time. Luckily, this works a lot like infrastructure as code, where I can write configuration and orchestration that is repeatable and checked into version control. In this example, we'll set up an endpoint that can take a version request and have it transform to the latest version that the rest of our architecture uses. When we get our response, we'll transform it to the correct downstream version of the client, and no one need be the wiser. The best part? We're going to do this all in a single block of code with negligible latency and 0 downtime. What you're looking at is an early release candidate of the Squillo NDE. Just a little sugar for this demo. Here's an update a lot of people are going through right now. We are moving from one provider to another. We could use any of the previously mentioned strategies, but with Squillo running as a sidecar, we don't have to mess with any of that. We simply describe the schema of our current provider. And to show that this is working, I'll use an API tool just to do a normal API request. And you can see we're getting back exactly what we expect. Now this is where things get fun. We simply describe the difference between the new and old provider. Squillo will build all of this under the hood and deploy it without any downtime. Now, back in our API tool, I can make the old version request, and it still works. And now I can make the new version request, and it works. This keeps going as well. We can release version after version, they all still work without provisioning a single new server. No additional tooling, not a single if-else, and if you've noticed in the editor, this is all documented as well, with validation still intact. We can take this demo even further and build out all kinds of testing to make changes like this rudimentary, but we'll save that for another episode. If you're dealing with environmental drift from your mobile deployment strategy, we have early access to all of this available now. Just shoot us a Squillo through our website in the link below. Also, if you like content like this, give us a like or share. It's the best way to let us know to make more. Thanks for joining me on How to Push to Production on a Friday. I'll see you next time.